In our headlines on this Friday afternoon, October 4th, here in South Korea. Israel's Air Force targets Hezbollah's intelligence center in Beirut overnight as fears grow over the widening war in the region that in turn are pushing up international oil prices. And President Yoon sits down with his ASEAN counterparts and the organization's dialogue partners next week for extensive talks on economic prosperity and broader stability. Meanwhile, North Korea resumes its floating of waste-carrying balloons into South Korea, and authorities here urge the public to take caution and to refrain from direct contact with the fallen debris. We start with the latest developments in the armed conflict in the Middle East. Israel's Air Force attacked Hezbollah's spy center in Beirut on Thursday. Our Lee Si-hu starts us off.
Large plumes of smoke rose from Beirut's southern suburbs on Thursday after multiple Israeli attacks on the area, one of which targeted Hezbollah's intelligence agency. The Israel Defense Forces said in a statement that they attacked Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters, responsible for aggregating intelligence about Israel and its military. Lebanese state media NNA confirmed there were 3 airstrikes on the Lebanese capital. At least 9 people were reported dead. Also on Thursday, U.S. President Joe Biden, when asked whether he would support Israel striking Iran's oil facilities, said that his government is in discussions.
We're in discussion with that. I think that would be a little, anyway.
Biden also said he will not negotiate in public when asked if he had urged Israel not to attack Iran's oil facilities. Previously, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had said that Iran would pay for its large-scale missile attack against Israel on Tuesday. The possibility of an Israeli attack on Iranian oil infrastructure has since caused market worries. Oil prices rose with Brent crude futures settling up over 5% on Thursday at $77.62 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures also settled up over 5% at $73.71. Both futures hit intraday one-month highs. Lee Si-hu, Arirang News.
Elsewhere, Ukrainian forces targeted a Russian radar station using long-range missiles provided by the U.S. Our Lim Yun-chan reports.
The Ukrainian military said on Thursday that it used U.S. Army Tactical Missile System, or ATACMS, ballistic missiles to strike a Russian Nebo-M radar station. The Nebo-M radar is a system that can detect fifth-generation aircraft, like the F-22 and F-35, as well as long-range ballistic missile launches. Ukraine's military says it believes Russia had 10 such operational systems left. The military did not state any details of the strike, including when it had taken place, but said that the destruction of the Nebo-M radar creates a favorable air corridor for the effective use of missile weapons. The long-range ATACMS missiles Ukraine used were sent by the United States in the spring, when Ukraine at the time had committed to only use the weapons inside its own territory, which is also the case with the British Storm Shadow. In the past months, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has been urging Western allies to let Ukraine fire their supplied long-range missiles deep into Russia. Washington has not suggested any change in its position of not lifting restrictions. Meanwhile, NATO's new Secretary General Mark Rutte, who took office on October 1st, vowed in his first speech in the post to help reinforce Western support for war-ravaged Ukraine. And just 48 hours after taking over NATO leadership, Rutte made an unannounced visit to Kyiv, where he pressured Western countries to lift their restrictions on Ukraine's use of advanced weapons to defend their country. This comes ahead of a crucial meeting of Ukraine-supporting leaders set to be led by U.S. President Joe Biden on October 12th. Rutte added he could work with whoever is elected president of the United States in November. Lee Yun-chan, Arirang News.
In other news, President Yoon is poised to depart for Southeast Asia on Sunday to promote regional prosperity and broader security with Korea's partners under multilateral and bilateral frameworks. Our senior correspondent Oh Seong covers the agenda ahead.
President Yoon Suk-yeol will travel to Southeast Asia to forge a comprehensive strategic partnership with Southeast Asian nations and strengthen economic ties with the Philippines and Singapore. Yoon's office said the Korean leader's 6-day trip will begin on Sunday and finish off in Laos with the annual summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. He will first make a 2-day visit to the Philippines, where he will hold a bilateral summit with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and meet with members of the Korea-Philippines business community.
President Yoon will engage in active economic diplomacy to expand trade and investment cooperation between the two countries and support Korean firms' efforts to secure major infrastructure projects. The two countries will also discuss expanding cooperation in future-oriented areas such as supply chains, energy, defense, and maritime affairs.
Yoon's trip to Manila will mark the first state visit by a Korean leader in about 13 years and marks the 75th anniversary of Korean-Philippines diplomatic ties, serving as an opportunity to elevate the bilateral relationship to a new level. On Tuesday, the president will then begin his state visit to Singapore, Korea's second-largest trade and investment partner in ASEAN, ahead of their 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations next year. He will meet with the city-state's top political leaders, President Tharman Shanmugaratnam, Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, and Singapore's long-serving senior minister Lee Hsien Loong.
Having closely cooperated over the past 50 years, focusing on trade and investment, the two sides will expand into areas like artificial intelligence, digital technology, and advanced technologies. In response to global economic uncertainties, we will also strengthen cooperation on strategic and material supply chains in cutting-edge industries such as energy and biotechnology.
Yoon will also take part in the Distinguished Singapore Lecture Series organised by a leading think tank to introduce Korea's Indo-Pacific strategy, the country's cooperation with ASEAN, and the prospect for peace and prosperity in the region if his vision of Korean unification is achieved. He will expand on the topic at the meeting of ASEAN leaders in Laos. On Thursday, Yoon will hold a meeting with the 10-member bloc, then attend a +3 meeting of ASEAN with South Korea, Japan and China, with various bilateral summits on the side. Amid speculation, he may hold a bilateral summit with the new Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. A presidential official said Japan hasn't yet confirmed whether Ishiba will be in Laos, but Seoul and Tokyo are discussing a possible meeting. Finally, on Friday, Yoon will attend the East Asia Summit of 18 Indo-Pacific countries, where he will present Korea's role as a global pivotal state in defending a rules-based regional order and once again share his unification doctrine. Throughout his trip, the president will aim to strengthen political and security cooperation with ASEAN, as well as trade, investment and strategic collaborations in high-tech areas.
This will come as Korea and the regional bloc upgrade their ties to the highest level to form a comprehensive strategic partnership as they mark 35 years of dialogue relations this year. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, North Korea has resumed its floating of waste-carrying balloons into South Korea. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff earlier on this Friday warned of balloons landing within the Greater Seoul region, urging members of the public to take caution and to refrain from direct contact with the fallen debris. Now, earlier last week, the South Korean military warned North Korea of stern countermeasures should its floating of balloons threaten public safety here or should it cross a line. Details of the potential response measures were not disclosed. In the U.S., at least 200 lives are reported to have been lost as of Thursday local time in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. And authorities believe the death toll will rise as hundreds more remain missing. Search and rescue operations continue in 6 states in the country's southeast, including Florida and Georgia. But bearing the brunt of the latest weather disaster is North Carolina, which accounts for over half of the fatalities. Now, Hurricane Helene is said to be the second deadliest mainland hurricane in the U.S. since Katrina back in 2005. Meanwhile, over in Taiwan, relief operations are underway after Typhoon Krathon swept into the country on Thursday. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
Cargo containers loaded at a port in Taiwan were being tossed around like fallen leaves. Shop windows were completely torn off, unable to withstand the powerful winds brought by Typhoon Krathon. The 18th typhoon of the season, Krathon, made landfall in Kaohsiung City in southwestern Taiwan on Thursday. Despite the typhoon weakening upon landfall, winds of up to 140 kilometers per hour slammed the island, damaging power lines and causing 100,000 households to lose power. Schools and workplaces were closed all over the island, while domestic flights were also suspended. More than 10,000 residents were forced to evacuate. The Taiwanese authorities say at least 2 people are dead, while 210 people were injured. 1 person is reported missing. The slow-moving typhoon is causing more damage to the affected areas, while causing flooding in some parts of Kaohsiung. However, the typhoon is forecast to move northward and weaken further into a tropical depression by Friday, bringing rain to neighboring countries, including here in South Korea. The Kaohsiung local government has been especially careful in its disaster preparations after Typhoon Thelma killed 37 people in 1977. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Korea's exports of agricultural products hit a fresh high during the first 9 months of this year. According to the Agriculture Ministry, exports surged above 8% on year between January and September this year, amounting to almost $7.4 billion. Overseas shipments of processed rice products such as kimbap soared over 41% during the same period, surpassing last year's total sales. Exports of ramyeon, Korea's instant noodles, rose some 30% to post well above $900 million, while Korean snacks jumped over 15%. Pianist Lim Yun-chan won the Gramophone Classical Music Awards for piano in London this week. He is the first Korean to win the Gramophone Piano Award and is the first ever to have 2 albums shortlisted, with his Chopin Etude winning by a single vote. The 20-year-old pianist was also named the Gramophone Young Artist of 2024 for his probing musicianship and phenomenal technique. The Gramophone Classical Music Awards began in 1977 and honors the most significant classical albums of the year. Here on the local front, researchers are working to treat skin rashes resulting from face masks without the use of antibiotics. Our Park Gonu explains.
A patient visiting a hospital because of itchiness and pain on her facial skin reveals her outward signs of the problem when taking her mask off. A side effect of actually wearing the mask. Wearing a face mask has become mandatory to prevent the spread of infectious diseases and new COVID-19 variants, and this is causing problems with the skin under the mask.
I am not allergic to anything usually, but my face has become itchy with a lot of skin problems after wearing a face mask. It is uncomfortable since I have to use mask packs more often.
I never had any skin troubles on my face before wearing masks. I have itchiness and troubles on my face after wearing face masks.
Humid air inside the mask creates a good environment for bacteria as the temperature of the skin rises when wearing them for a long time, leading to skin problems. Researchers analyzed the facial skin of 40 men and women in their 20s to 50s with their face masks on and found that pathogenic bacteria propagated on the skin and mask due to the raised temperature and moisture. There were a total of 200 species of bacteria on the skin and face masks, and a third of them caused skin problems when tested. The researchers also detected boosting bacteria that accelerated the growth of pathogenic bacteria, revealing that this novel bacteria exacerbated skin problems in animal testing. Furthermore, they found that they could relieve the problems just by suppressing the boosting bacteria. Specifically, phenolactic acid made by human symbiotic bacteria on the skin was effective in reducing boosting bacteria numbers.
We found that boosting bacteria can worsen skin problems through animal tests. We were able to relieve skin troubles by suppressing pathogenic bacteria too.
The research team expects to develop a new treatment that minimizes antibiotic resistance by using substances that it has newly found. Park Gonu, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. We start in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where at least 78 people have died after a ferry on Lake Kivu capsized. The ferry was carrying 278 people when it capsized on Thursday morning local time, of which at least 58 people have been rescued. According to South Kivu's governor, Jean-Jacques Breezy, on Thursday, the death toll may increase, as he said that it'll take at least 3 days to get the exact numbers because not all the bodies have been found yet. The boat was traveling from Minova in South Kivu province to Goma in North Kivu province. But overloaded with passengers, it capsized and sank only some 100 meters away from its destination. Recently, many more are crossing Lake Kivu by boat to reach Goma to avoid land travel, as the region in the east of the country is prone to armed conflict between rebels and the Congolese government forces. While Thursday's Lake Kivu accident saw a high death toll, such incidents are commonplace in the Central African country, where overcrowded boats are often to blame. OpenAI has raised some $6.6 billion in a fundraising round, with investors valuing the ChatGPT creator at $157 billion. While OpenAI did not name its investors in Wednesday's press release, the investment round was reportedly led by a U.S. venture capital fund, Thrive Capital, as well as others, including an Abu Dhabi-based investment firm, MGX. Earlier this year, OpenAI saw a valuation of $80 billion, already almost tripling its value of $29 billion from 2023, with the viral growth of its AI language model, ChatGPT. OpenAI, which is reportedly looking at a loss of some $5 billion this year, wrote in a blog post on Wednesday that the new funding will allow us to double down on our leadership in frontier AI research, as it would increase compute capacity to solve hard problems. The United Kingdom on Thursday announced that it is giving up its sovereignty over the Chagos Islands back to Mauritius, in a historic move that will allow the displaced residents to return home after decades. The deal, which the UK and Mauritius announced jointly, will include the tropical atoll of Diego Garcia, currently used by the US government as a military base. While Mauritius has full sovereignty over the archipelago, Britain will be authorized to exercise rights over Diego Garcia, guaranteeing the operation of the US base for the next 99 years. The British Foreign Minister David Lammy said in a statement that today's agreement secures this vital military base for the future, adding that it will shut down any possibility of the Indian Ocean being used as a dangerous illegal migration route to the UK. Miyazaki Airport in southwest Japan was closed on Wednesday after a US bomb, likely to have been dropped during the Second World War, exploded near the runway. CCTV camera footage captured the moment of the explosion, which a Japanese Transport Ministry official said had left a crater 7 meters wide and 1 meter deep in a taxiway next to the runway. A bomb disposal team was later dispatched from Japan's Ground Self-Defense Force, which identified the bomb as American-made. While almost 90 flights were cancelled, Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary, Yoshimasa Hayashi, said Wednesday that there was no threat of a second explosion. The airport resumed operations on Thursday morning. Kim Xiang, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. We had a brisk start to the day with morning temperatures hovering in the low teens in central parts of Korea. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago we got out of the tropical nights. Then temperatures should rise fast with plenty of sunshine. And daily highs will be 1 to 8 degrees higher than yesterday, topping out at 25 degrees in Seoul, Gwangju, and Busan this afternoon. Meanwhile, morning rain on Jeju should turn brighter in the afternoon. Now, brace for some minor impact from Typhoon Krathon as it weakens to a tropical depression. It could drop frequent showers in the east of Gangwon-do and southern provinces through early next week. Then morning temperatures will get much warmer next week. Now, humidity has gotten much lower as well, so many probably have started turning on the humidifier. Be sure to keep these safety tips by keeping a safe distance of at least 2 meters from the humidifier, while ventilating the room every 3 hours for at least 20 minutes. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Those are the headlines at this hour here in Korea. Coming up next is our daily panel session, and today we touch upon a gathering of the leaders of Korean associations worldwide.